I'm going to explore with you how you can use Google Gemini in your classroom to support teaching and learning. My name is Simon. I'm a former ICT and Computing teacher with several years experience in education. And in this session, we're going to explore why use Gemini, so the rationale behind using that as opposed to other tools like ChatGPT, for example. Look at what Gemini is, how you can use it. Look at examples, opportunities for using AI in education. We'll also look at Notebook LM, which is part of the Google AI offerings. And if we have time, we'll look at some of the implications of using AI in your classroom. So I want to start off by just sharing some examples of tools that teachers might already be using in their classroom. Tools like Canva, AI, Magic School AI, Diffit, Copilot, TeachMate, SLT AI. I saw a blog recently, I think it was on LinkedIn, sharing 92 AI tools for educators. And the question that arose for me straight away was actually, how many of those tools are GDPR compliant? How many of those tools protect your data and don't use your prompts or your images or your documents you upload to train AI? I don't know the answer to that. And not many people may know the answer to that. But what I do know is if you are using Gemini or Notebook LM, and you're signed in with your school Google account, so your Google Classroom account, then you are protected. So it's ad-free, it's private and secure, and it's GDPR compliant. So anything that you upload, any prompts that you use are not used to train AI. That's really, really important. So what is generative AI? So generative AI is a field of AI that can generate original content. This includes text, images, music, and even videos as well. To access Gemini, there's several ways to do this while signed in with your school account. You can go to gemini.google.com. You can also access Gemini in the waffle inside Classroom. Just click on the waffle and click on the Gemini button. And there's other ways as well. So what is the difference between Gemini and Google, for example? So I'm going to launch Google. If I were to ask Google a question, so for example, if I were to ask it, why is the sky blue? What it will do is it will go away and it'll search for the best answers or list websites that rate highly for that response. And if you look, we've got NASA Space for Kids, the Royal Museum in Greenwich, and we have some videos on YouTube as well, Reddit. I would then have to click on those links and find the answer. With Gemini and generative AI, it's like having your own personal assistant. So if I were to ask Gemini, why is the sky blue? It will then go and find all the answers and compile that and give me a generic answer. It's thinking about it. So here we go. So it says the sky appears blue due to a phenomenon, or try saying that phenomenon called Rayleigh scattering. It has a detailed answer here. Now, one great thing about AI, generative AI, is that it's conversational. So I can push back if I don't like the answer, or I want it to change the answer slightly. I can push back and ask another question. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say thank you. How many of you actually say please or thank you to AI? I often worry that if we don't say please or thank you, AI will think it's normal. And as humans, if we stop saying it, it gets removed from our language. But also, when AI finally takes over the world, I want it to remember that I was polite to it. So thank you. I'm going to ask it because by default, it uses American English. I'm going to say, can you repeat the answer, but using British English? spelling. And I'm also going to say, and this is a really good example how you can use it in your classroom to differentiate. I'm going to ask it to simplify it. Can you make it easier to understand? You can actually set an age range, be more specific. So could you rewrite this so my year 7s could understand, or my year 4 students could understand, or you can even set a reading level as well. I could even say bullet points only, but let's see how it copes with that. So this is a quick and easy way to make responses or text accessible to all of your students. So here we go. It's even provided an analogy. I could have pushed back and said, can you provide an analogy or suggest ways I can make this more engaging or more relevant, provide context for my students. But here we go. It's even given me an image showing the visible spectrum as well. I didn't ask for that, but it did that by simplifying it. So it's really, really powerful. So what else can you do with Google? Now, before we start, all the prompts that I use in this session, I've shared with you, as well as some other resources to help you get your head around all the features in Google Classroom and Gemini. So if you go to bit.ly/Gemini_classroom, it is case sensitive, or scan the QR code, that will take you to the link with all the prompts from this session. And I will share this again at the end of the session in case you miss it. So the bit.ly/Gemini_classroom. So I want to start with a simple admin task. Now, I'm not saying that we're using AI to replace ourselves. And I'm not saying that I'm not capable of writing letters or that you're not capable of writing letters or emails. But I think we've all been in that situation as teachers when it's the end of term, perhaps Christmas, and we've had concerts and plays, and we're also having to complete all the progress reviews before the students go off on the holidays. And just one letter to a parent could be the last straw, or you just haven't got the energy to do that. Or it could be that it's a sensitive topic and you need help in writing an appropriate answer. AI is good at that. So what I'm going to do, I've got some prompts that I've created earlier, and this is my top tip. If you find a prompt that works for you, save a copy of that in your docs or in a shared drive, so that you can use them again. So I'm going to go back into Gemini. Now this time, because it's conversational, I'm going to start with a new chat. And to do that, we click on the new chat up here on the top left-hand side. You can see the history here, and you can review those and go back to those at any time. You can even click on the 3 dots and pin those. So if there's any prompts that you use on a regular basis, you can pin that to the top. But I'm going to click on new chat, and I'm going to ask it to create a letter for upcoming school trip to Scotland. So it's thinking about it. So here we go. So here's subject, dear parents and guardians. I could change that to carers, or I could push back and say, actually, can you make it to parents and carers? We're delighted to confirm the details for upcoming residential school trip. It says students will need to pack the following essentials. Sincerely. So I can edit that, or I can create a copy and put that into my OneDrive, into my drive. I can also push back and change it. So I could say, well, can you rewrite this, but can you provide a more detailed list of essentials? Because I know for a fact that what I consider as sturdy clothes or suitable clothing is completely different to what my students and their parents might think suitable clothing is. So it could be more specific. Or I could push back and say, that's great. Now create a consent form. And it will do that for me as well. I can also have it translate. So if I have parents of children where English is not their first language, I can also translate the letter as well. Gemini will do that for me. And there's my consent form. The other thing you can do with Gemini is you can talk to PDFs. I know what you're thinking, that's my weekend sorted. I've actually had better conversations with PDFs with people lately. But what does it actually mean? It means you can add any document, not just a PDF, and you can extract key information from it, like summarize the main points. So I'm going to go to my drive this time. So if I go back to Gemini, like so, I'll create a new conversation, new chat. Now you'll notice in the chat window then here, you've got a plus button where I can add files. So I can either upload files from my computer, or I can add them directly from my drive. So I'm going to click on drive, and I know for a fact that I have, so I can search for my files. I've got a document from the DFE outlining how you can use AI in education. So I'm going to click on that document because I know it's a long document. I'm going to insert that, and I'm going to simply just say summarize the key points. So when I read through the entire document, and it will highlight the key points from that. So imagine, not that you'd ever be asked to do this, but imagine that Friday evening you've been told by SLT that you're going to deliver an assembly to all staff on Monday morning, or staff briefing about how you can use AI in education. Here's a 40-page document. You can now do that. You can even get it to create the slides for you at the end as well. Here's a summary. I can then push back again and ask more questions. So I notice the section on risks. So I can say, what are the risks? Now, we don't have to say what are the risks of AI in education, because it knows, because it's conversational, it knows that I'm talking about this document, and it knows from summarizing documents that it's about AI in education. So here we go. So based on this document, inaccuracies and hallucinations, I'll talk about this later, inherent bias, data protection, and academic integrity. And I can push back and do lots more. Incidentally, the examining boards don't let me tell you this, but you could upload an old exam paper with a mark scheme, and you can get to generate new questions based on that paper. So you can essentially create your own new mock exam. The other thing you can do is you can also compare files. So using that plus button, so if I go back to Gemini, again, create a new chat, I can add multiple files. So this time I'm going to search for my, let's search from Drive. Let's do results. This could be IEPs, it could be reports. So you can look at reports from different year groups, or different for the same student over different years. So let's take my results from 2023, and I should have, oh, there's my 2024 results, like so. So I'm going to add those, and I'm just going to say compare the results and provide a brief overview. So we'll compare the two documents, look for the key differences. I could push back again and say, okay, now you've done that, could you tell me whether boys outperform girls? Can you tell me what percentage of girls or boys achieved an 8 or higher in their GCSE results? And it will do that for me. So here we go. It is overall the computer results show a improvement from the previous year at both GCSE and A level. Highlights include a high percentage of top grades, grade 9, and also an increasing number of A-level students. And here it'll do a comparison. And where you see this paperclip here, you can actually see the source and where it got the information from as well, which is really, really useful. And there's an A-level overview. And it says here, girls' performance. I didn't ask for it, it just did it, but I could ask if it wasn't there. And the percentage of girls achieving an A-star grade showed a marked improvement, rising from 20% to 33% in 2024. So I can pat myself on the back for that one. So you can compare documents. What else can you do with generative AI? So one thing that I started to do, I don't do so much now, is use it to generate lesson plans. I worry that if I had this tool when I was doing my NQT year, that I would have used this to create all my lessons to save time, because that was the most time-consuming task. But without having the experience of what a good lesson looks like, I wouldn't know whether what AI generated was one suitable or if it was a good lesson. So the way that I flip this is now that I'll give it an idea. So here's my idea for a lesson. Can you add the what I call the boring bits? So adding in all the stuff that takes time, like the learning objectives, accessible learning assessment criteria, the sequences of a lesson, and maybe differentiation tasks. So all the bits that take time, AI can generate, but you generate the idea. Or you can give it an existing lesson, say, this is a lesson that I've taught for the last 5 years. Can you suggest ways that I can make this more interactive or engaging? It will do that. Just to show you how it works. So here's an example of a lesson. This prompt I'm going to use now is quite detailed. I'm going to show you how I got to that in a moment, but let's go back to Gemini and let's create a new chat. So here we go. Must remember to paste as plain text. So I've asked it to create a lesson on an English lesson on metaphors and similes, describing monsters. So here you go. So 60 minutes, learning objectives. I asked it to map it to the national curriculum in England, so it's done that for me. There's my lesson structure. There's my lesson segments. And there's my assessment criteria. I could push back and say, well, actually, if I don't like the main task, I could say, well, I could suggest an alternative, or I could ask it to suggest alternatives for that as well. Now, I did say that that was a quite complex prompt. Gemini is like Copilot and like ChatGPT is fairly brand new, and it's like a child. And when I say a child, it's like a literal child. To give an example, if I were to say to a literal child, empty the dishes or empty the dishwasher, in my head I might think that child would then take the dishes, put them in the cupboard, take the cutlery, put them in the cutlery drawer. But to a literal child, emptying the dishes could be literally taking the dishes out and putting them on the side. AI acts in the same way, and you've got to treat it like a literal child. The more detail you can give it, the better your response. Now, there are lots of examples online of acronyms and mnemonics you can use to create prompts. The only problem I find with those is that if you try to apply those to every single situation, you get confused, and thus the AI gets confused. So these are my top tips. Now you can use one of these, all of these, some of these, and you just use them for your scenario. But essentially, where possible, tell it who the expert is. So provide a persona. So if you create a letter, you can say you're a teacher, or your head teacher, you're a school admin. If you're creating a lesson, you say, let's say a history lesson, you're a history teacher, you're a year 7 teacher. Then provide the objective. What is the task you want it to do? Like create a lesson, write a letter. Provide the audience, so it's for. So even though you're a year 7 history teacher, you want it to create a year 7 history lesson or a lesson around, let's say, medieval life. Don't assume that the AI will know that it's for year 7 students. So it's always good to say the audience as well. Be specific. Provide context. So things like, say, if it's a lesson plan, link to the national curriculum in the UK, or Common Core for the US, and then set some boundaries. So if it's a letter, how many words? If it's a lesson, how long? The first time I asked AI to create a lesson on alliteration around the Gruffalo by Julie Donenthal, it created 7 lessons, each 90 minutes long. So I had to push back and say, actually, I've only got 1 lesson and it's 60 minutes. So the more information you can provide, the better the response. So here's an example of what one actually looks like using all of those. So persona, you're a Year 7 English teacher. Objective, design a detailed lesson plan. Audience, suitable for Year 7. Content, describe dystopian settings using metaphors and similes. And linked to the National Curriculum in England, Key Stage 3, and then I've got boundaries, so 60 minutes, and I've also specified what to include in a lesson plan, such as lesson learning objectives, assessment criteria, and so on and so forth. So the more detail you can give it, the better. And in some cases, you can even ask AI to help you to improve your prompt to get what you are looking for. So once you have your lesson plan, you can use AI to create a worksheet, or you can get it to create follow-up. So you could ask it to, what are the key learning objectives for this lesson, framed as questions for my students. You can get it to provide bullet points detailing what the children will know by the end of the lesson, so the learning outcomes. And you can even, one of my favorites is list the essential vocabulary terms that should be introduced and used during the lesson, something that used to take me a lot of time. I mentioned you can also use it to create worksheets. So you can say, okay, using this example, create a worksheet with model example and instructions for the students to complete this main task, and it'll do a very good job of doing that for you. You can also use it to create quizzes. So one of the challenges I used to find with creating multiple choice tests is coming up with challenging distractors or challenging wrong answers to make it more difficult for the students to guess what the right answer is. AI is very good at doing that. You can also use it for differentiation and scaffolding. So you could say, suggest strategies to differentiate a lesson, include methods to support different learning needs, or using technology or scaffolding. You can create different types of worksheets. It's very good at creating fill in the gaps exercises. And you can even use it to create word banks as well. Other potential uses, you can take a medium-term, or you can create a medium-term plan or short-term plan by uploading a syllabus or agreed syllabus for a topic and get it to list the sequence of lessons, which includes the learning objectives, key questions, for example. It's also great at creating waggles, what a good one looks like. So you can show the students what you are looking for, or if it's an exam, what the exam board is looking for in their responses. On the subject of exams, you can also use it to generate model answers. So you can take a question from an exam paper and also include the mark scheme and ask it to create a model answer. Now, I tend to flip this. So I will give the AI the question, the mark scheme, generate the answer, and then I give the answer to the students with the mark scheme, tell them it was created by AI, and get them to mark it. It serves 2 purposes. The first one is it helps the students understand the mark scheme and what the examiner is looking for, or the examiner is looking for in its answers. But I also find that currently, despite all the advances in AI still struggles to get into the top mark bands when it's answering questions. I think that's because it lacks creativity. But it's also a good example to show students that it doesn't always get the best answer, and sometimes it does actually get the answer wrong. And we'll talk about hallucination a little bit later. So as I say, it serves multiple purposes by doing it that way. Before I go on to other ways you can use generative AI, some top tips just to mention. When you're using Gemini, you can actually double check the responses. So if I go back to Gemini, if I go back to my chat, so I can go to my history, and let's find the one wiser sky blue. At any point, you can click on the answer It should be under 3 dots. Here we go. So under the answer, click on the 3 dots and you can double check. And what that will do, it will go through the answer and it'll check multiple sources to verify the content. There we go. And it'll show you where you got the information from. So it says anything in green, it's corroborated. So if I click on the arrow and expand, so Google search found similar content like this. And again, found similar. So what it'll do, it'll check multiple sources to check to see if the answer is on multiple sources. And the other thing you can do is you can pin your chat, like I said before. So anything that you use frequently, if I go back to Gemini, I can click on my chat here and I can click. So if you write a lot of letters, school letters, I can click on those 3 dots or or ellipses if you want to be professional, and then click on pin. And I can even name that to school letter. And that will be always at the top. So I can reuse that prompt at any point. There we go. So far, all the examples I've demonstrated are text examples. So using AI to generate text like lesson plans, letters, emails. But I said at the start that generative AI can also generate images, videos, and music. So one of the features that built into Gemini is the ability to generate images from your words. The first time I saw that, someone shared an image of a cute kitten wearing roller skates. Who doesn't want cute kittens in their life? Or pandas on surfboards, which I thought was cool. But then it got me asking the question, well, how could I actually use this in my teaching? Well, AI is very good at bringing descriptive or very descriptive text to life. So imagine you want a child to imagine what a dystopian world is like, unless they've experienced that, or you want to visualize what Harper Lee is describing about Maycomb in To Kill a Mockingbird. Unless you've been to 1930s Alabama, how can you visualize that? So you can take those descriptions and bring them to life using AI. Another way you can use it is you can bring children's work to life and use it as a hook. So imagine my lesson on describing monsters, or reimagine the Gruffalo, where students create their own Gruffalo style monster using metaphors, similes, and alliteration. You could then take those descriptions and bring them to life to make the lesson more wow. So I'm going to share an example. So I'm going to take, so here's an example of creating a monster. And you could also use it as an image in your worksheet, so the students describe the image you provide and use it for what a good one looks like. So I'm going to go back to Gemini. I'm going to create a new chat. And so I'm going to say create. Now, there's different styles you can use. So you can create painting, watercolor, sketch. I'm going to say a hyper-realistic image. Now, I've put cute. The reason why I put that is the first time I did this activity, it was around the Gruffalo, and I put in my description and I put hyper-realistic, and the results would give you nightmares. So unless that is your outcome, I always recommend any activity like this, always put the word cute. So cute for a monster with sharp teeth standing in a magical forest. And then click on go, and it'll generate that, and it'll do that quite quickly as well. Incidentally, I saw or heard of a project in Wales where college students were using this to create prototypes for clients. So it was catering students and creating cakes, and the client would come in, real clients from the local area, and they'd say, I want you to make me a cake for my child's birthday. They'd take some information. What is your child's favorite color? What is their favorite TV show? What is their favorite hobby interest? Dinosaurs. And they put that into AI and get it to create 4 different prototypes. And then the client could then pick their favorite features from the different images. And then the students could then go away and create a cake that represented those. So here we go. That's not too bad. Actually, it's not too scary. That's my cute monster. So it just shows you what is possible with the image generation tool. Now, if you are a Google Classroom user and you have a school Google account, you might notice now this used to be a paid premium feature, but it's now free for all teachers. When you go into Gemini, when you go into Classroom, so if I go to Classroom, here we go. You've got this new tool here called Gemini, and it's got like a little Gemini icon. If I click on that, it takes me to these tools. And these are generative AI tools that are specific for educational tasks. Some are better than others. I tend not to use the outline a lesson plan. It's okay. It does link to standards, but the more common core. So if you're a US teacher, then that's fine. And Generate Quiz does a good job creating a self-marking quiz. For example, multiple choice. Real level text is a good one. So if you've got a piece of text that you want to make more accessible for your students, you can upload the text from your drive or upload it from your computer, and you can change it to different reading levels to make it more accessible. This one's a nice one. I used to use Socratic debates like in my teaching, and sometimes I struggle to come up with a good question to start a debate, but also if the debate starts to fizzle, try and think of questions to keep the debate going. So you can use AI to generate those. You've also got craft compelling hooks, ideas for tackling common misconceptions, and lots more. You can explore these yourself. There's some new ones here like create math word problems. Just demonstrate the quiz for you so you can see how it works. So I'll click on all the interface for all these is the same. So it asks you what the target year group is, and then the topic. So if I say year 6, number of questions, let's say 5, and let's choose photosynthesis. I click on learn objectives. Okay, and then I can choose the types of question. So multiple choice, true or false, short answer, long answer. I'm just going to make my life simple and just multiple choice. I can then generate the questions. So here we go. And then I can export that. So I can export that to the class, export it to Docs, and I can even export that to Forms. It's a really, really powerful tool. I say some are better than others. And all I suggest is just try them for yourself. So some examples of how you can use it. So you can use it to differentiate lesson plans. So again, just set your target grade. With lesson plan, you can use a template as well. And there's an example of a lesson plan. Use it to create hooks. This is how the hooks work. So you choose again a grade, choose a topic, and then generate, and it will suggest ideas and ways you can make that more interactive or more engaging. Here's the real level text. So you can just make it simpler, or you can set the target grade, add your text, and it'll generate an alternative. And you can just copy and paste that into a new document. So that's included for free. It was a paid feature now in Google Classroom. Another thing that you'll find in Classroom via the waffle is something called Notebook LM. I'll show you how to access this, and then I'll show you what it is. So if I go back to Gemini, I click on my waffle in the top right-hand corner. You'll find, scroll down a little bit, there it is, a tool called Notebook LM. So essentially it is a notebook where you can add resources, multiple different types of resources, web pages, PDFs, and it is similar to Gemini, but it's a lot more powerful. So to create a notebook, you just click on Create Notebook, And you can either upload your sources from your computer, drag and drop, or you can add sources from your Google Drive. You can do website links, YouTube videos, and also copy and paste text. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. I've got some documentation on forces. There we go, introduction to forces. So I'm going to add that. Let's also add a website. So here is the BBC Bite Size website, Key Stage 3, which is on my topic of forces. So I'll go back and can now add that. And you can even add YouTube videos. If I go to my ad and go to so if I do YouTube and if I search for BBC Bite Size, Key Stage 3 forces. Okay, so I can take that video. I'm going to copy that and paste that into my notebook. I can add PDFs as well. And you can see there's a document into 50 documents or sources. So YouTube, paste that in there. Okay, so I've got my sources, and then now I can do things like I can summarize them. So summarize these documents, or could ask a question, what are forces? Now, unlike Gemini or ChatGPT, rather than searching its database for answers or searching the web for answers, it's only searching your sources. So the better the quality of the sources that you add to your notebook, the better the answers. So here's a response to that. So I could push back and say, oh, so there's something about unbalanced forces. So I can say, what is an unbalanced force? And again, it's going to get the response from my sources. You can use it to generate new lesson plans based on existing lesson plans or new worksheets based on existing resources. You can do that as well. And then on the right-hand side, you have something called Studio. So with Studio, you can do several things. So let me go back to Studio. So you can create an audio overview, video overview, mind maps, reports, flashcards, and quizzes. Students that have a Google license, students that are 13 plus and 18 plus can get access to these tools as well. So I could create a quiz, and actually, this is a really cool feature. This used to be a paid for feature, but this is now free. And notice that I've added a YouTube video. I can say create 10 multiple choice comprehension questions based on the video. There's only one video attached, YouTube video. It will do that. So you could, as a task, ask the students to go and watch a video. It could be a flipped learning classroom, so it's homework. They watch the video, and then when they come back to test to see if they understood, here's your questions, multiple choice with the answer, and it's linked to that video. And you don't even have to copy the transcript. Just paste it in the video, and it'll do that for you. Very, very powerful. And then with Studio, you can create a quiz to test your knowledge. So if you're a student using this, you can click on quiz. And it'll generate questions based on here that almost like an interactive quiz that you can test yourself on. You can also create flashcards. Now these do take a while to generate. So in true Blue Peter fashion, if I go back to my notebooks, here's one I created earlier, although I'm sure there was a better version of that. Oh, there it is. Maybe not. So here I've uploaded an example. So this is a document syllabus on teaching about medieval life. I've created some flashcards. So if I click on the link here, so this is what they look like. So we've got in medieval society, where do the majority of people live? I can answer that and then check my answer. It's great for revisions if I look on the back. So most people lived in villages, as of a few large towns. Next flashcard, what was the most? And it's taken all this from the documents that I've added as a source, and I can add more on top of this. So I've got my flashcards. I've also got a mind map. So if I scroll down here, so this shows you, so it's created key topics from, broken it down to bite-sized chunks. So we've got medieval society, we've got education, castles, law and order, life in towns, life in villages. So if I look at castles, I can expand on that. And we've got those that built after Norman conquest, feasts. So let's have a look at population, including servants, cooks, and soldiers, and expand further. And you can actually download that as an image and share that with your students. We've also got up here an audio overview and a video overview. I'm going to show you the video overview first, because what you can do is really quickly take all your source material and create a video, almost like slide deck, to introduce your topic. So I've done this already. It takes a while to generate, but this is what it looks like. So this is the video it's created. Hopefully be able to hear this. Let me just check to make sure I'm sharing my audio.
Thank you.
Let me just check my settings. I might have to just share the screen again. Just bear with me. Okay, it should work. Now let's try again. Apologies for that. So if I share my screen again, and this time use audio. Okay, so let's try that again. So what it's done is generated a video.
When you think about the Middle Ages, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Hear that now?
Probably knights in shining armor, right? Kings,
Yes,
queens, incredible castles. But you know what? That's kind of the fantasy version. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and get to the real story, the story of almost everybody else. So that's the big question, isn't it? If you weren't a lord or a lady, if you weren't born into wealth and power, what was your life actually like? I'll tell you right now, it is a world away from what you see in the movies. And that's where the real history is. And for most peasants, that status was villain. Now, this wasn't just a job title. It meant you were legally bound to the land you...
So that was a video. You can see it's 6 minutes long, all about medieval life, based on the attached document. And if you don't like that, you can regenerate it. It doesn't always create the same thing every time. It also creates different voices as well. So if I go back to my examples, here is another one that it created. So the reality of medieval life.
Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of legend. Forget the shining armor and the fairy tale castles. We're going to uncover the raw, surprising, and often harsh reality on who really made up the population. So, what was life actually like for their story? Well, that is the real story of the Middle Ages. So to get a real feel for this world, we have...
And another question you can ask, does it do British English voices? Not at the moment. They are American English, but it shows you what it can do. It's a really, really powerful tool. The other thing it does as well is it will create an audio overview, which is not just a video, and it will create a podcast between two people talking about your topic. So I clicked on this earlier to show what it sounds like. So this is a podcast about a medieval society.
dealt with justice.
Right. Our goal is to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding this period properly. We'll cover housing, sanitation, even how their justice system worked.
It's about understanding what it actually felt like to live under.
Now, there's also an interactive button. If you click on the interactive button on any podcast that the AI has generated for you, you can actually join in the podcast. And I'll show you how this works. So I'm going to start the podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really pushing past the usual myths about medieval life, you know, the knights and kings stuff.
Yeah, forget the romanticized version.
We want to get into the details, the hard reality for most people back then, say between the 11th and 14th centuries.
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Hi, is it true that peasants actually live with their animals?
Oh, that's a fantastic question.
A great way to start this deep dive.
You nailed a key detail right there.
The short answer is yes, it's true.
And it really shows you the priorities of survival in that era.
We were just about to talk about peasant housing.
We were going to jump into the 11th and 14th centuries.
But sticking with your question, the sources show that in a peasant hut, maybe a third of that tiny one-room space was penned off for the livestock.
Goats, pigs, sheep, whatever they owned.
They did this primarily for security.
Those animals were incredibly valuable assets.
It just shows you the power of AI. So hopefully that has given you a snapshot of what is possible in education with Gemini signed in with your teacher and school account. Now, I'll show you some really cool things, and it has really exciting potential. However, there are some risks and some implications about using AI that you should be aware of. The first one is just be aware that even though you have that GDPR compliance, always think before supplying AI with any personal or especially sensitive category data about your students, about your school. It's like the old days of Facebook, or do you remember MySpace? Think before you post. Is this appropriate? Should I really be sharing this? And if it's strictly necessary to use personal special category data with AI, just check with your school or with your school's policy if that's allowed to, if that is allowed using the tools that you have access to. The other thing to be aware of is images. So just before the summer break, I noticed a lot of teachers doing this, and I've done this. My opening slide has a picture of me as a funk pop figure. I've created images of myself as a Muppet and a Lego figure or Minecraft character, but it's my face, and my face is probably everywhere anyway because of my job role. But I give permission for AI to use that, knowing that there's a potential that it could use my face in other responses from other people's prompts. However, there was also a trend where teachers were using AI for the best intentions, but not really thinking about the consequences. So I saw a post on LinkedIn where a teacher had posted a video of her students. And what she did was, it was in a deprived area, and they had high aspirations, but they had no role models that were relevant for them. So what the teacher did was took photos of them, uploaded them to the generative AI, put some details about that child, and then what they would aspire to be, their job role, and the AI would create an older version of them as their job. Now, this is not that. I just generated this AI to demonstrate the point. So this is a child, wants to be an astronaut, so the AI generates an image of that child when they're older as an astronaut. What you've got to ask yourself is, do the benefits of this activity outweigh the student's loss of privacy? Because you're uploading that child, not only that child's photo to AI, but also some information, personal information that identifies that child as well. Also need to ask, is this something that's in the school policy? And if it's not, should it be? And actually, should you really be getting parental consent in this kind of cases for using students' images? Something just to be aware of it, because those images could potentially be used to train AI. Some other things to think about: technical limitations. So AI does sometimes hallucinate, so it'll generate a plausible sounding but factually incorrect answer that is entirely fabricated. So be aware of that. Always check your sources. It also lacks comprehension. Remember, it's a literal child, but still can't comprehend. It can understand large amounts of data, but it doesn't necessarily understand what you're asking it. And also, because the AI is trained on large amounts of data, essentially everything that was ever published online, it also inherits that bias as well. To give you an example of what that looks like, I asked AI to create an image of a doctor. I used the 3 most popular image generation tools, so Copilot, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and this was its response. Now, I could have been more specific and said, could you create an image of a female doctor or choose different demographics? I just asked to create a doctor, and this is what it came up with. And the reason why it did that is because it's scraping the internet for its responses. So you can try this with teacher, with different scientists is another good one, or mathematician. And you can even use the generative AI as an activity to introduce bias with your students and explore why is there bias and how can we change this bias. But just be aware of that. This is DFE guidance, something to be aware of. It's a grey area if you're using Gemini with your school account, because theoretically you are GDPR compliant and nothing that you upload is used to train AI. But just beware that the DFE's guidance is that schools and colleges must not allow or cause students' original work to be used to train generative AI models unless they have permission from the copyright owner. And the copyright owner is the child, and if they aren't old enough to give permission, then you have to get permission from the parent or legal guardian. So just check with your school what the policy is on of uploading students' work, especially if you're using it for marking or providing feedback. And lastly, just be aware of something called secondary infringement. So I know a lot of schools that have used AI to create their AI policy, which is great. However, because AI has access to everything that was ever published online, there is a good chance that it took some of that policy information from someone else's policies published on their website, potentially without their permission, and it could be copyright infringement. So if you're publishing something specifically, especially on your school website, that's forward-facing to parents or clients, just make sure or try to check where it gets its source of information from. So some next steps to follow on from this session. Remember, I provide that link for you. So all the prompts that are used in this session and more you can find by visiting bit.ly/Gemini_classroom is case sensitive, and you'll also find other links and resources and also courses around using Gemini in education. And some things to try when you're back in the classroom. Use Gemini to adapt a lesson plan or modify a scheme of work. Use Gemini to differentiate an activity or worksheet. Create an image as a stimulus for a creative writing task or to bring child's work to life. Create a quiz or set of comprehension questions using either Gemini or Notebook LM, or create a podcast, video overview, or even a study guide using Notebook LM.